How's it going, everyone? So I wanted to have a little talk video about how like the software process kind of works these days, at least where I'm working. So there's there's the agile process, which is this idea that you basically try to create features and implement new things in iterative chunks. You get those things created and deployed to the end user, and the end user will basically tell you if this feature is good, right? So you try to do that as fast as possible and get these changes deployed. The goal is like on a daily basis, like get as many changes deployed every day so that you can actually ask users that same day or the next day for feedback, and you can kind of refine your process. And the reason I'm kind of talking about this is that I was making some videos about like how to speed up a React table that had 3,000 records. And I just wanted a solution for, I need to display all 3,000 records. That's it. But I kept getting comments of like, oh, well, you should do infinite scroll. You should use pagination. You should do virtualization of your tables. And I mean, those are great ideas. But the way the business process works on the current project I'm on, we can't implement that yet, right? The users already have a table. They're already used to using it a certain way. They're used to using Command F to find the things that they need. So they need all 3,000 of those records to be in the browser so they can simply search for, I don't know, France and have that directly take them to what they want. So right now their user experience is pretty good, although the table is kind of slow to sort. So I just want to kind of address some of those comments that keep coming into my videos where people are just saying like, you should probably just use infinite scrolling. It's a great idea, but you can't just implement any type of user experience approach unless you've talked to the users and understand what they actually need. And then also, you can't simply just implement these changes unless you want to break out of the actual process, right? So the process that we were working on was just give the ability to sort some tables by the headers. You click on a header and it basically sorts the table. So if you follow the Agile process, you have some requirements. That was your requirement, right? You have a user who's logged in should be able to click on a table header and sort the columns or sort the rows by the column that you clicked, ascending or descending. And then what you do is you work with some user experience people or some designers, and you kind of figure out what is the best way to display icons on that header. What is the best, hover feedback that you should give the user when they click on the columns? Should you show a spinner while the table is trying to sort? And then you start developing it, and then you test it. Testing involves using like unit tests, integration tests, but also getting it in front of some of the other developers to test it out, or your internal users to test it out. And then you deploy it to your end user, and then they start using it. And then you get that feedback. Is the table sorting feature cool? Do we need to come back and fix it? So this whole process, again, you're supposed to have a small amount of chunks of like, how can I just get a feature and deploy it out to a user? Okay, so you want to keep your chunks kind of as small as possible, your features as small as possible, just enough that a user can actually start using it. So going back to the comments I'm getting on my videos, the idea is just get a table out there that's sortable. And there's only like one user who happens to have 3,000 items in their inbox. All the other users have like 300, so this is not an issue. But for that one user, is having a table when you click on the column, having that thing take 5 seconds to sort, is that a real issue or is that not an issue, right? If the one user doesn't care that they have to wait 5 seconds to sort a column, then implementing pagination or infinite scroll or some type of filters or a search box is something that will come much, much later, right? It's lower in priority, and there's someone on the team who makes those calls, right? There's a product owner who says, we don't need to have this be faster for this user because they are able to currently do their job. Yeah, it might be a pain for them, but there's a lot of other work in the queue that's much more important than trying to implement pagination, because that involves adding like components at the bottom of your page that hits an API endpoint that also supports pagination. So there's a lot of work that goes on behind the scenes for implementing pagination and infinite scroll. And I will say there's a lot of libraries that already kind of provide this out of the box. So it's not as difficult as I kind of just said, but that's kind of like what I wanted to talk about in this video, is that like sometimes you might have great ideas that you've seen from other sites, but you just can't implement them yet because there is a process at hand. And you want the user's feedback to drive your implementation. You don't want to just start doing stuff. Like, what if we did pagination and the users just don't like it? What if they hate pagination? And then you need to figure out, okay, how big should your page size be? Where should the numbers for the pagination be when they try to navigate? Should it be at the bottom? Should it be at the top? Do you do both? So there's a lot more questions that you end up starting to ask yourself just from adding a simple feature, and you might turn out that pagination is not a great solution. Infinite scroll might be a better solution, or virtualization of the table might be a better solution. Or just showing the entire table of 3,000 records and just having it be a little bit slow in the UI might be the best solution for that user. So just keep that in mind. When you get into the actual industry, there's like an actual process that you and your team have to follow, and you can't just willy-nilly like kind of implement whatever UX approach that you want, especially if you're on a team that has other professional user experience or designers who kind of figure out what works best for that particular user, right? Our system has like 8 or 9 different types of users, and all of them have very specific different needs in this application. So you can't just generically put pagination on one table and expect that to work for every single user. You actually have to like research and make sure, is this a good approach? Is this going to work for every user? Or can we just kind of add some type of toggles to make it show up for some users and not show up for other ones. So I just wanted to give you some insight into like how some of these ideas and choices are made when it comes to a team. Like as a developer, your goal is to just implement the feature the way that your UXers tell you to. If you don't have UXers on your team, you don't have designers on your team, then yeah, you can kind of do whatever you want. You're a developer, you can just implement whatever best solution you think will work for the users. But if you still follow this process, after you do your deployment, like after you add those table sort in the columns, you need to actually get into a call with users or do some type of research to make sure that, hey, this new feature I added, is this meeting your needs? Is there a better way we can do this? Or is this a bad approach to the problem? Like, did we do a bad solution to the problem that you're having? Anyway, it's interesting to learn more about this agile stuff and like how Scrum works and the whole like daily stand-up retrospectives. Maybe I'll do more videos on it. Maybe not. I'm not really too interested in the whole like process side of software development. I just like coding, I'll be honest with you all. But if you enjoyed watching this talk, give me a thumbs up. Also, be sure to subscribe if you're new. Have a good day and happy coding.